Testers Meetup. My name is Greg, I'm your facilitator tonight. So first I want to thank ThoughtWorks and Emily in particular, there she goes, for the venue and the food. Well done ThoughtWorks, they do sponsor these meetups fairly regularly. So good news, 60% of the way through the week. How's everyone's week so far? Almost, oh right, okay. Not good. Okay, so it's not just me, there's many people involved behind the scenes in the meetup. So Irina helps out with our engagement. Did she make it yet? No. Photographer Lorena, Mila helps organize the speakers here at the front. Amrit does the logistics. Devesh is the treasurer, and Richard, the president. Is he online tonight?
Yeah.
Richard, hello. So first, little bit of housekeeping. So there's a dice game on tonight, Sam. There you go. Where's it? It's on in the boardroom in the corner.
Yeah,
so for the people who are here for the dice game, it's in there. And we usually do a little bit of a kind of survey just to get a gauge of who's here. So can I have a show of hands for who's here for the first time? All right, a few, half a dozen. Gee, do you want to just write those numbers down for me? Who's here for over 3 years? Who's been a member of this for a long time? 1, 2, 3. 3 people, all right. And who's a guest of an existing member? Who's been convinced to come along by a friend? No? Nobody? Right. Okay, also we asked, who are the functional testers? 1, 2, 3, so good. Half people. What about kind of more technical testers, automation and that? The other half. Right, okay, yeah, I could have worked that one out myself. And test leads? Any test leads? 1, 2, smattering test managers? Hiring test managers? Just me, all right, okay. All right, and then in the industries, so finance, banking. You probably guess where I work. Yeah, that one. Government. 2. All right, e-commerce. And now we've got someone from Iconic there tonight. Okay. Gaming industry. 2 down the back. Any not-for-profits? No? So, and anyone from universities? 1. Okay, all right. And then the status of permanence versus contractors. Permanent members of staff versus people on contracts. So, what's that? Permanents first. Okay, you guys, about half, and contractors then, I guess the other half. All right. Okay, so you've got the feedback sheets. You can give some feedback on these. We'll collect them later on. So, I think you guys are all finished work, so rather than listen to me, we'll jump straight into it. We're going to do some questions and answers afterwards, and then there's going to be a little bit of networking anyway. So if you want to chat to me or any of the other team, feel free to stick around afterwards. So please, can we open? Oh, and QCUP, sorry. The QCUP is a Cucumber Behavioral Driven Development Conference on the 19th and 20th of November. It's being sponsored, well, Anne-Marie, who's a kind of long-time member of this meetup, is one of the keynote speakers. So you can check it out. There's a link on one of the meetups if you look on the app. So without further ado, testing is learning. So just before James Back, who was at James Back's talk a month ago? So he talked about coaching and teaching, so we've got the other side of the coin tonight. Chi's going to talk about learning. Please welcome Chi.
How are you guys going tonight? Don't you think what we do is strange? Testing is such a strange art, isn't it? We don't design the system. We don't write the system. We don't even build the system. Yet they tell us to tell them whether it's right or wrong. Does anyone else think it's strange? I bloody well think it's strange because we have nothing to do with the building or the design of the system. Sure, a lot of people say, involve the testers early. Yeah, you get involved early, but really, what does that mean? Do we actually help them build the system? Do we actually have input into the design? Most of the time, no. So I think it's really strange that we are tasked with actually testing the system and actually finding out whether it's right or wrong. We explore those systems and we try and figure out so many things about them. And for me, that is a learning process, right? We go through the system and we go, okay, if 1 is equal to 2, the user is able to log into the system. Those are 2 statements. As testers, we validate whether those statements are correct or incorrect. Yes, there could be a second statement that goes, the user cannot log into the system, the whole thing crashes. But we are actually figuring out whether it's doing what it's supposed to do. Katrina Clokey, New Zealand tester, in an August blog asked, what is a great tester? And for me, it encapsulates 2 skills: communication and learning skills. And it's being able to go out there and see it. If you can communicate well with the stakeholders, with the various people involved, you're doing well. And if you can actually prove whether what you're saying is right or wrong, is the other skill. And that's what I think is learning. But learning is a strange thing because as children, we're always asked to say, okay, learn your timetables. Has anyone else done that? Learn your timetables? What does that mean? It means, for most of us, memorization. 1 times 1 is 2, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, and we memorize those things. But do you actually know what it means? Do you actually go and practice and figure out what it means? Well, that's not working. That's the Merriam-Webster definition of learning. For me, I don't know what it means. The activity or process of gaining knowledge by skill, by studying, practicing, being taught, experience something, the activity of someone who learns. Can anyone tell me what that actually means? It's a big shopping list of terms, isn't it? This is my definition of learning. Learning is something that you're exposing yourself to ideas and applying them, or trying to apply them. For me, that basically is the learning process, is trying to go out there and do something. Like, for example, you want to go and ride a bike. Intellectually, you know, you get on 2 wheels and you start pedaling and you move. But if you don't have balance and you haven't ridden a bike before, what happens? You fall off, you fall flat on your face. But that is part of the learning process. You have to go actually through the systems of, okay, let's get my balance first. Let's be able to pedal. And then later on you can do, hey, look, no hands. Those type of things. But you're translating the raw ideas into a practice, into something that you do. So, where do we get our ideas from? Anyone? No one knows where they get their ideas?
Everywhere. Everywhere. You read blogs, you watch other people do stuff.
Exactly. Okay, let me ask you another question. How many people have read a book in the last year?
On testing.
You're jumping the gun there. This is the Pew Research that they've done. 75% of people haven't opened a book in a year. You find that on average, a person reads 7 to 8 books a year. What does that mean? That means you get roughly a whole bunch of ideas once every 2 months. For me, that doesn't cut it because I love books. If you look at my library and my girlfriend looks at my library and she goes, what are you doing? There are way too many books. I have to admit I'm addicted to ideas. I love being able to open something and pick up something new. Okay, so here's another fun question. How many people have read a non-fiction book last year? Fiction? Nice. I love fiction. Non-fiction's great. Non-fiction teaches us about the world. Fiction, I'm a writer, so I love words. I love concepts. I love the abstract. And that's just me. But getting to the person who asked, who's read a testing book? One person over there, come on.
Just 1 year? Not in the last year.
I know, it's boring as batshit. What can I learn from a testing book? I do testing every day. I am the king of the hill when it comes to testing. So why am I telling you guys to crack open a testing book? Because there are ideas in there. There are so many ideas in there. And a case in point, has anybody got that feeling when they're doing testing that you go, I've written this test case a million times. I've written a whole bunch of test cases. I've written a whole suite of test cases. Yeah, I've got that sinking feeling that there's more to this. That there's someone out there has innovated. Someone out there has better ideas about testing than me. Anyone got that feeling? I get that feeling a lot. Do you know what you do about it? You read. You read. You read because Jerry Weinberg has things to say. Well, whoops. Jerry Weinberg has things to say. James Barker has things to say. Rex Black has things to say. Lisa Crispin has things to say. All these people have got ideas that, frankly, I'm too dumb to come up with. So I am standing on their shoulders. I'm getting those ideas and saying, wow, if that person can think that, what can I drive forward with this? I stand on their shoulders and I build on what they learn. Now getting back to learning, I've always said getting a piece of knowledge and applying it is a learning process. It's the way of function. And nothing really drove that home to me when I started this. This is a martial art, Balintawak. It's named after a street in Cebu City. And it's a stick fighting art. And I've done kickboxing, I've done fencing, I've done kung fu. And I got to this art and I thought, you know what? I can learn this. I can learn this because I've got prior experience. But I was wrong. Do you know why? The first thing the teacher that teaches me says, oh, I'm not catered to your left-handedness. I'm left-handed. When I was doing fencing, someone built me a left-handed blade, right? So I got catered for. I could go into competitions using my left hand. In boxing, in kickboxing, instead of standing like this, you stand like this. So people catered for me. This art, this guy said no. You got to learn right-handed just like everyone else. That threw me off. Second thing, you got to use both hands at the same time. Who does that? In boxing, you jab. And that's you use that first hand first, you use this hand second. But it's one hand at a time. In fencing, this hand's basically useless. You use this hand to lunge, and you use it to guide the blade. But it's still one hand. This art, you catch the blade, you hit back, then you do something else. You use two hands. And you know what? He's got all these things. There's even a grouping system for the art. So you can't just say there's holding, there's being able to manipulate the blade, there's group 4, which is purely blade orientated. What happens when you get trapped? Okay, I'm going to get up. And there's tricks at the very end to actually go over the top and beat people where the first 5 groups don't explain anything. There's one group specifically as a get out clause in tricks. So for me, this art was a real head spin. Every single first class that I went to for this, probably the first 3 months, I didn't know what I was getting myself in for. But what the teacher was really good at was he expected me to fail. He expected me not to be able to do whatever that was in the art. And that is a key point of learning. Learning is a pain in the ass because it's not easy to learn. It takes time and effort. And do you know what really hinders us all? It hinders us all in we're afraid to fail. That's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of looking like a fool. We're afraid of doing things and saying things that are our turn. So who's gone to a job and people have said to you, you're doing it wrong? I get it all the time. I get it all the time. People say, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. You're doing it wrong. Let me show you. But you have to do that. You've got to be able to say to people, I don't care if I fail. We fail because we don't want this. Car crash on the Harbour Bridge. Sydney Harbour Bridge car crash. Multi-car pile-up caused traffic chaos. What does that mean? Everyone in Sydney doesn't like you now. You've delayed them from getting home or getting to work. We get shamed because we fail. This guy. This is a 12-year-old kid in Taiwan. There was a painting on this wall, and what did he do? He had a drink, he walked along, fell in. Multi-million-dollar painting destroyed. You feel for the parents, right? The parents are probably going, oh crap, why did you have to do that? But that's a massive case in failing. Is he going to learn his lesson? Yeah, he's probably not going to pick up a drink anywhere near a painting anymore. What about this one? This one's a classic, isn't it? There was an old lady who decided that she was going to fix this painting. So what did she do? She made Christ look like an ape. Doesn't she feel like a fool? She gets shame. We all get shame when we fail. But the thing is, we shouldn't. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but hey, that's her thing to do. It's okay to mess up. Messing up enables us to say, okay, that's that. Let's shrug it off and carry on. Let's shrug it off and add something to this cause that we're at. You need to fail to be able to do anything. Society now, you've seen too many people just wanting to succeed. Like Paris Hilton, okay, Kim Kardashian. They succeed without doing anything. And we see a lot of people going, yeah, I want a piece of that. But I'm saying no. I'm saying, yeah, it's an achievement-based society, but don't be afraid to stuff up, especially in our field. We should stuff up as much as we can. We're testers. Who can blame us, right? If we stuff up, we can say, yeah, that's what I do, I'm a tester. I am arguably a very clumsy person. I'll tell you a story about how clumsy I was. I first got out of uni and I was supposed to put in a whole bunch of box orders. Like I was working in the warehouse. So they needed T2s, T4s, T6s, all through size 24, T24s. T24s were for televisions. They were massive, they were like that. And you use them rarely. Maybe once every 2 days, you might get a T24 that you had to put in. For me, I was in charge of that, doing that. So I knew there was a bus coming in 10 minutes time, and I just rushed through this order, banged everything else out, and the last bottom line was T24s. Everyone expected 50 because in a month everyone would get through about 50 boxes. I put in 5,000. I didn't know, I tapped it, I faxed it off, back then they had faxes. And I went home, didn't think much about it. What happened the next day? I came in, everything was sweet. About 10:30 when everyone had a smoko, which was like morning tea for people who don't work in warehouses. So we all standing out the front. Yeah, it's a great day. Guess what happens? The first truck comes up. Yeah, box order. We can get back to work. So the second truck comes up. I ordered a little bit too much. The third truck comes up and I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong. There's 10 trucks that turned up that day, all because of me, all because I was clumsy. Like the warehouse manager was walking around like this, and I was like going, what the hell do I do? I've got too many boxes now. Everyone is freaking out. The guys running the forklifts, they're usually not scared of anything, but they were freaking out. So what happened then? Rational minds figured out at the end, okay, it was only $10,000 worth of boxes. We'll leave them with the company and we'll take on what we can. But what did I prove? I proved no one audited what I sent to them. They thought, oh yeah, it's a box order from Chi. He's reliable. He's okay. No one looked at it and went, 5,000? 5,000 is a crazy number. How did you get 5,000? It really didn't make sense to anybody. Eventually we got through about 1,050. But 4,050 was what was that when I left. So it taught me something. But how many people have done this? You're executing a test case, right? And halfway through, instead of a certain product or a certain thing, you choose the wrong thing. And you go, crap, I'm going to throw that test case away. That executed test case away because why? I've stuffed up. I've stuffed up and I'm going to go and create a new one. For me, I don't think that. I think, oh yeah, I've done something that, yeah, it was wrong, but what else does this mean? What else can this stuff up mean? It could mean that no one's catered for this business case yet. We're testers. We're supposed to test the system, so even if we're not supposed to select that product, why don't we select it and see? Does it cause crazy shit to happen in the system? Maybe it does. But then we learn a lesson. We learn, don't do that. Don't do that crazy shit. Sometimes you get business cases that it's not in the spec, the BA doesn't think about it, but because you made that mistake, you find a huge bug. For me, it's one of the classic things I do. It's one of my skills. I'm clumsy. That's great because I find things that no one else can. People are accurate, they never find the things I do. Right? So, I never write off a test case as useless. If I stuff it up, good. I stuffed it up. But what can it mean? It can mean, okay, there's that product. Hey, I didn't know you could put TPD, trauma, and life and death insurance on the same policy. News to me. I'll try it. Let's see what happens when I print out the report. It's all wonky. Yay. You found a defect. You found probably a defect that most people go, oh, would never think of that. Yeah, they never think of that because they're not as clumsy as me. Clumsiness for me is a virtue. The only caveat to this is not all stuff-ups are made equal. Sometimes what you do is never going to fly. It's never going to fly because there's no business case for it. It's never going to fly because, hey, millions of other people have done it. So you've got to look at the stuff up and go, can it be useful? If it is, use it. If it's not, hey, move on. The other thing to this is, if you make that stuff up 1,000,000 times when using the system, what do you think the end user is going to do? The end user would make the same bloody mistake you did, especially if you make it repeatedly. So that, even if people say to you, hey, why is that a bug? We know you stuffed up. But because of the volume of stuff ups, I'll log it anyway. And a lot of ideas from bug advocacy in lessons learned in software testing, what does Bach and the rest of them say? They say, when you write a bug, you've got to make a case for it. You've got to say, this is a bug because you'll save $1 million if you implement this, or you'll save efficiency by 50% if you do this. That's why these things are important. If you make the same mistake all the time, yeah, it's a bug. Now we're cooking with gas. My mate Pierre Jatte. Pierre Jatte is a Swiss, was he a philosopher? I think he was a philosopher. But he came up with this model. And I stole it from Jerry Weinberg, who wrote his book, Experiential Learning. And what does it say? It says, first step is exploration. You get a new system, you know nothing about it, let's go and let's do as many things as we can, right? Then the second step is invention. Invention is, we've chucked as much things at the system as we can, but I think there's a rule. I see a pattern. I see something that's going to happen. And I've done enough cases to think, if this happens, then this will happen. That's where application comes in. Application is a stage where you go, I've got my rule, and I've chucked enough mud against the wall to see the pattern. Now let's see if it works or not. So application is where you chuck all those ideas into the rule and see, does it work? Does every single case that scenario asks for actually produces an answer that you're expecting? Does it prove the rule? If it does, great, you figured out the quirks of the system. You tested the system. You've learned something from the system. You learned that if I do this, this will happen. That's Piaget's learning model. The dice game proves this. Who's played the dice game? It's a real bitch, isn't it? I did the dice game last year at Let's Test, and it really drove me crazy because I was impatient and I didn't really want to do the work to get to the answer. Let's say that. I didn't want to do the work, so it frustrated the real crap out of me. But you've got exploration in dice game. What do? You toss the dice as many times as you can, and you want to see invention. You want to see, okay, I've got, well, one of the things, let me tell you another story. I was at Let's Test, and one of the guys had a rule, and it was really weird because I was chucking dice all the time, but everything that I did didn't matter because he was counting the number of beers on the table. So I got like 2 6s and 4 5s, and I was doing various things, and I was saying 2, 2, 2. I'm going, how's it 2? What's 2? It doesn't make sense. There's nothing that, I thought I had isolated all the variables, but he was just saying 2 because there's the 2 beers sitting on the table. Another guy came over, put down another beer, 3. Huh? How's it 3? It was because the guy was basing it off beers. True story. That's invention. Application is the same thing. You now have a rule in your head, and you've done all those dice rolls. You've seen the pattern. You want to validate whether it's right or wrong. And that's where the application stage comes in. You want to see, okay, I've done all those dice rolls. I think it's because of the beers, right? So I know that there's two beers on the table. The rule's 2 beers. Let's throw another one. Let's throw a whole bunch of them again. And we've figured out there's 2 beers sitting on the table rather than the dice rolls that we were throwing. Now, how do you roast a chicken? What do? Do you use Piaget's learning model? Who would do that? Who would go out there, buy a 1 kilogram chicken, go home, stick it in the oven and go, yeah, I reckon 300 degrees, 45 minutes. You come out, it's burning, okay, that didn't work, toss it. Let's get another chicken, let's stick it in. Let's go for 100 chickens and figure out, okay, there's a pattern here. At 325, that's the best chicken. Nah, I don't think many people would do that. What would you do? Any ideas? You try to get a recipe, you try to get ideas first, then you try to... Exactly. This is my learning model. And this is only true for me, right? This is what I came up with. It doesn't mean it's going to be written in a book. I hope so, but I don't know. But I think there's transference. What does transference mean? Transference means that you get other ideas from other people, other learners. So you go to YouTube and look up roast chicken. You go to recipes.com and you look up roast chicken, and then you explore it. You then, okay, you fix it up, you stick it in the oven, you cook it. Maybe it tastes great, maybe it sucks, but you've tried You've tried it? What can you do? Have you ever cooked something and you just went, well, that could have done with a bit more ginger, or it could have done with a bit more herbs, or, you know, it needed a bit more cinnamon. That's adaptation. Adaptation is where you go, okay, that's what people do, and I think that's going to be the rule, but let's modify that. Let's modify that slightly so it works for us. And then again, you do the application. You do the same thing again. You try it. I used to make roast pork at home. My family got sick of roast pork because every single week I'll just tweak it slightly. I'll add more cinnamon, I'll add spice. Hey, sometimes I'll stick in barbecue sauce, that's just for shit and giggles, you know, and see what people do. But this was what I did. For me, this is what I did. I've adapted, and I applied what I thought is the rule. Okay. So that's the learning theory out of the way. The next thing I want to talk about is beginner's mind. Beginner's mind is a martial arts philosophy and mindset. And what it says is, I've practiced this art a million times, yet I want to come at this every day as if it's the first time I've done it. Who thinks this is an important thing for us testers? I think it's really important because have you ever had this scenario? You test a screen and you just sit there day after day and you're just typing into the system and you go, right, this is a great thing. I've found all the bugs. I found all the bugs of that screen. That screen is done. And then, like, a few days ago, I thought that page was done. They got a whole bunch of UAT people in. Sat down, that's wrong, I don't like that. What are you doing here? Because I've seen it every day, I make assumptions. I see it and I think, okay, yeah, there's a bug that covers that, you know, 300 numbers ago. You know, it was like PDS 1 and I'm now on PDS 355 or something. It's an issue because I'm not coming at the problem every day with new eyes. I'm not coming at it and thinking, okay, what else can I pick out from this? What else can I pick out from this screen if someone new, didn't know what I was talking about, came and looked at it? That is where I think is where we need to improve. We need to look at things and say, what would someone new think about this? It's really easy for us to see things over and over and over and get jaded. I certainly get jaded very quickly. But the beginner's mind, I think, will help us alleviate some of that. We'll actually see things that other testers won't see. Maybe you get those bugs that no one else finds. Yeah, I think I've gone through that screen. Now, hacking your learning. I promise you a few hacks. There's two concepts in a book called Make It Stick by, I think his last name's Brown. I'm not sure of his first name. But there's two concepts that permeate the book. Like if you pick up page 1, he talks about it. On the last page of the book, he's still talking about this. That's how big a concept these two things are. First thing is interleaving. Interleaving is learning multiple things at the same time. They might be unrelated, but you go and learn them. Like, if you're going to learn times tables, mix them up. Don't try to learn just the 5 times tables and not learn the 9. Mix up 5 and 9 and 7, chuck in whatever. It might not make you learn faster, but the things that get stuck in your head get stuck in there forever. So that's what interleaving does. The second thing is spaced repetition, and this is where you see a lot of the gains in terms of efficiency. So what does that mean? It means learning a bit every day. You get exposed to a concept, you try and learn it piecemeal, a bit at a time. I always sucked at this at uni because what did I do? I waited until the final week and I crammed. I tried to push all that knowledge into my head at the very last minute. Did it work for me? Nah, it didn't work for me because how do I remember all that? I had to put in a bit of knowledge every day and eventually it'll stick. Eventually you'll get in there because you expose yourself a lot to it. You team both of them up and you get these apps. You get Duolingo and you get Lumosity. Who's used these apps before? It's like I said in the first place, it's a pain in the ass, isn't it? You get through those apps and you just go, Jesus, I suck. Because they use these 2 things. They use spaced repetition, you do 10 minutes a day, and they mix it up. So they, instead of just, I'm trying to learn French, and it's driving me crazy, because they'll throw in animals with kitchen utensils. How am I supposed to remember both those things at the same time? But if I did practice every day, and I've been trying to get this presentation up, so I've taken a few days off, but if I did it every day and I was consistent, French would be something that I could learn very quickly. So how do you apply that in your own learning? Can you space something out over numerous days? Can you break it down and say, okay, I'll learn this a bit at a time? And can I break it into various subjects so it locks into my brain? Those are 2 things that really work for you. So where do we go from here? Who thinks testing is boring at the moment? Like, there's nothing really out there to learn. I've done testing, I know everything about testing. I think that that's a fallacy. I think there's many things out there that we don't know yet and we can improve upon. And how do we do that? We do that by standing on the shoulders of giants, James Bark, Jerry Weinberg, Rex Black, whoever else you want to chuck in there. ISTQB syllabus if you want. And we have to look at various things and we have to innovate. I'm just skipping ahead by accident. I'm not really meaning to do that. Let's see if we can get back. Who can tell me why McDonald's is an innovation? Anybody? Why? Okay, besides being at fast food and it being crap for us and, you know, it's terrible. Why was McDonald's such a great concept?
Because you could get the same thing at any location, basically. They repeat the process, make it exactly the same way, effectively, any locations. The same way.
That's a very good point. Did you hear what he said? He said you're getting the same product all the time at various locations, and it's the same product every single time. What happened before McDonald's? How did people make hamburgers before McDonald's? Before McDonald's, you would go to a diner, usually on the east coast of America, because that's where most diners are. You'll sit down, you order a hamburger, the guy will go out the back, and he'll make you that burger just for you. Now it's like artisanal and all the other organic stuff, and people are going back to that. But before that, he would make that burger, give it to you just for yourself. The McDonald brothers came up with a concept that they turned it into a turnkey solution. They broke making a hamburger down into a task that was broken into many pieces, and every single piece in that task was easily done, even a teenager could do. And as you can see, most hamburger places, most McDonald's are staffed by teenagers, because there'll be one guy who's making patties, there's one guy who's doing the buns, one guy doing the lettuce, another guy doing the cheese, another guy emptying the special sauce into a bucket or something. But they've got a simple thing along the way. Everyone's got a task to do, and it's turnkey. So you can repeat that on a large scale. The book that comes from is E-Myth Revisited, so if anyone wants to look that up, that's where that comes from. But that's what McDonald's really broke the mold in doing that way. They made a production line, and that was where the innovation came in. Why is Netflix an innovation? Come on, guys, give me a hand here.
You don't have to download it.
Netflix is an innovation because it's taking an old concept, streaming media. In '96, when I first started university, you could download trailers from movies, right? What did that replace it with? That replaced it with actual movies. So that's where they're breaking the old mold. They're taking an old concept from one field, and they're putting that old concept into a new field, which is actual TV and actual media consumption, TV shows. Who can tell me what Uber's an innovation?
Because it's taking the taxi equation.
It's taking taxis, and it's taking apps. Apps is one concept, taxi is another concept. They're merging two very distinct fields together. That's what I think we got to do with testing. We need to get ideas from other fields disparate from ourselves, and we got to try them. I don't care if they even fail, but we've got to try new ideas. And if you can try a new idea, you will innovate. And I've said it before, with the books, where do ideas come from? Where do you get testing ideas from? I get them from books. And I look at one of the greatest testers in the world, Jerry Weinberg, and what does he do? He gets ideas from all these other fields, and he sticks them into testing. The experiential learning model from Piaget, it's from a philosopher. Yet he stuck it into testing and he made it work. And he described how we learn and how we test. So, who's testing who? Are we learning from the machine, or is the machine learning from us? I'm not talking about artificial intelligence, but the software that we're testing learns, doesn't it? We give it a set behavior, and we teach it to do the right thing. It might be automated. Someone might have to put in the brains behind it and coded up, but it's learning from us and we are learning from it. We might call it test results. We might call it application. We might call it various things. But I think there's a two-way street. And this is an esoteric concept, so that's why it's at the end. But yeah, my key thing here is innovation. I want everyone in this room to pick up a book or learn something new. It could be underwater basket weaving. But if you're learning something and you get a concept that works in that field and you apply it to testing and it works, it's a fantastic thing because you've done something that everyone else won't even come across and won't even think of. That's it. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
Thanks, Chi. I'm going to be trying some cinnamon chicken soon, I think. So we got some time for some questions. Anybody got any questions for Chi? Go ahead.
You mentioned the beginner's mind, which I agree is very important. The first day you sit in front of an application, you're full of ideas because you have no background and you're free to do as you please. And then, like you said, you get jaded. With time, you use the application and intuitively you know what to do. When you said you need to come in with a beginner's mind, in my experience, it's more difficult to unlearn than learn. So, do you have any tips on how you do that?
Meditation is a good one, but it's a very esoteric concept. But it's just asking yourself every day when you sit down at that table, okay, what would someone new do? It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be, if I was completely brand new to this system, and yeah, you get used to things, and okay, this is how a product runs every day. I have to select all these checkboxes or whatever. But you come at it and go, so if I didn't know this system and I tried that, what would that do? Oh, they told me not to use this box. I'm going to use it anyway. See what happens. Okay, it crashed. Network goes down. Hey, beginner's mind. But that's how I would go about it. I would come back. It's a simple question. What would a newbie do when they're presented with this system? It doesn't have to be complicated. Meditation gives you benefits in that you can detach yourself from ideas. You can detach yourself from emotions and experiences. A lot of great entrepreneurs do meditation every day because they're able to extract themselves from the situation and look at it from a distance. And that's where they get their beginner's mind from. They're able to look at it and go, okay, if I was a million miles away and that problem that seems so big to me right now, what happens if it wasn't that big up close? It would be a small problem. How would I solve that problem from a million miles away? That's how they do it.
I've used some techniques in doing this because, like every other tester, we all have had this situation where we run out of ideas. What I typically do is I think of myself as, what if I just consider a person, an individual that I know, and I'll think of it as what will he or she do in this situation. And that sort of makes me feel I'm a little away from the situation, and I think of that person, I just think of a third person, and that's why my mind starts thinking of problem differently. And I've seen this working, so maybe.
All right, thanks for the input.
Anybody else? So I had one just when you were talking about testing books, and while I have read them, it has been a while since I read a testing book. Do most people find they do a lot of their reading about testing in blogs and online? Is that where the kind of, it's hard to sit down with 200 pages of testing. It's, if you want to go to sleep, that'll probably help. But I think I find I read blogs on a much more frequent basis. They're a little bit more bite-sized, more kind of case study-ish. So we're kind of people's hands up who's read it. What was the number? One testing book in the last how long? Oh no, there's another one. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
There's a few books around testing, like one there's General Systems Theory and IOBOTs on. There's a whole lot of books around this space that support
All right, that's a good point. Yeah, you don't have to look at the exact books on testing, the things that surround it. Anything else?
Yeah, while we are at the subject of books, and while the presentation was books, are there any recommendations? So,
If you haven't-
top 5 books that you should read in your life, for sure. Every tester should read these books.
Wow.
Good question.
Lessons learned in software testing. It's probably the first one. Bach wrote that one. Perfect Soft. Sam Kainer. There's a whole bunch of them. Second book. Perfect Software by Weinberg.
And there's no such thing as perfect software after you learn that.
Sorry,
Perfect software, it's a myth of perfect software after you learn
is it the myth? I thought the title was Perfect Software.
Stick a list of them.
If you can just put a comment on the meetup group. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman. Make It Stick. It was really kicked my butt in the last couple of weeks. I found that really interesting. I'm missing number 5. What would I say is number 5?
It's okay. If you take so much time to think, that means it's good.
Make a comment.
I'll come up with something and I'll post a comment.
Do you think it's for testing it's important to read only tester book about
No,
testing, or maybe
that's the whole point, Mila, for
Yeah.
innovation.
like a business?
Innovation means
It would be useful to test and know about business or
Yeah.
project management.
if you think my library is just testing books, you're sorely mistaken.
No,
I
I'm
got-
not making any prediction about your
I've-
library.
I've got books on all sorts of things. Like I read business books and entrepreneurial books. Like Gerber is really good. The E-Myth series is fantastic. He comes in with some crazy ideas, but I think they're great ideas. Even I'll go so far as Malcolm Gladwell's series of books. They're always filled with ideas. What else to come across recently? A lot of my books at the moment on writing and craft. But that's just me. That's one of the things I'm passionate about also outside of testing is writing. So a lot of my books are on how to unpack a sentence. It sounds boring to most people. I know how to write a sentence. This is it or something, right? But I like to look at verbs. I like to look at past participles and those type of things. But yeah, anyone else?
No, that's it. Okay. Well, just to wrap it up. So on the topic of learning, so you probably have heard of a few of these things online. There's a lot of resources out there. You can sign up for Coursera. There's a lot of courses done by established universities. Lynda is pretty diverse. That's kind of not as academic. We do things about photography and stuff. Udemy, similar, or even just YouTube. You got a question, certainly around software testing. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube around testing and general software engineering stuff. A lot of talks like this they film and post on YouTube. So I was going to lay down a challenge then. Anybody want to? I signed up for a course last night when I was thinking about this. It's a machine learning course, Stanford University. It runs from the 6th of next month to the 28th. Not saying you have to do that one in particular, but anybody want to do something online?
I'm doing data analytics.
You've already started data
Yeah.
and analytics?
Coursera.
Okay, so maybe, so they don't all start straight away, maybe have a think, and maybe at the next meetup, bring it along, we'll to go show of hands, and then maybe in the new year, because most of these things run for 8, 10, 12 weeks. All right, so anyone want to put their hand up? So you're already doing one, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, yeah.
The intent.
6. The intent. Nobody's going to hold you to it, but I just thought, you know, in a group of people, sometimes you don't think of it, or it's just you're so busy at work. So maybe if we sort of start the journey together, we can update each other each month. And, yeah, off.
I would say one thing about learning, and that's what we did
Yeah.
about. CourseCA actually has a learning course run by a university where I've actually heard of interleaving and space repetition, but it means a different thing. But you know, you may find that interesting. It goes there's it's associated with that. It's run by the university, and they go with various techniques of what's called Pomodoro technique, learning in batches of time. You know, setting a 25-minute time.
The 25 Pomodoro technique,
Yeah.
I heard about that, yeah.
So it's actually quite good. It talks about saying to people, you know, while having a bite, there's neuroplasticity of the mind, and that comes into play as well too. So you know, if that tickles people, the fancy people, then there's an actual course that goes into it in detail.
Will you post it on the meetup?
I'll find it. I did it a while ago, but I'll
Sure.
find it. And then I'll post it on there.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
I think it's learning how to learn. That's the most.
Learning how to learn, is that what you? That's it, right. Ministry of Testing. Excellent. Ministry of Testing. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, I think we'll wrap it up there, and hope to see you all next month. I don't know what's planned, I didn't look, but you all have the meetup, I'm sure you'll have the app. Thanks a million, and Chi, big round of applause. Thank you, Chi. We're going to hang around a little bit. If you want to have a chat, do a bit more networking, feel free. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Machine learning. So it's supposed to be about how the machine